Well, I want to offer each of you a warm welcome to today's webinar sponsored by the Boston branch of the Anthroposophical Society. As you here know, last night our clocks sprung ahead an hour. We are now on daylight savings time. It will take a few more days to alter your circadian rhythms, I'm sure. But thanks to all of you for being on time. And I have to say, I'm thrilled, and I'm sure all of you are too, to have Christine Burke here with us today. Her topic is contained in a word she coined, logodynamics. This word implies the dynamics of the logos, or the word. It should be considered as an art that is connected with the transformation of the astral body. It is therefore an art of the future, and it is linked to community. Rudolf Steiner speaks of this art in nearly every lecture he gives from 1920 on, and he touches on it in many lectures and books before that time. We can develop a relationship with speaking that enlivens our connection to the world of the senses and thus to the world of soul and spirit. What really is speech? You hear me. Do the mysteries of speech live in our forces of speaking? As we evolve, will our speaking evolve as well? Christine holds an MA from Cal State Northridge. During her career as an entrepreneur, as well as a teacher of adult classes, she has been a social activist. For example, as a guiding member of the Emergency Pedagogy Without Borders, she has just returned from a week-long assignment. She continues to offer workshops using art and meditative exercises that work to align the body, soul, and spirit. She uses a combination of breathing, rhythmic movement, phenomenological sound exercises, and speaking, of course, to help us heal past difficulties and to bring us to conscious presencing so that we are able to meet the needs of each day and thereby bring about a healthy future. Her career seems to me to ring forth the social motto. The healthy social life is found when in the mirror of each soul, the whole community finds its reflection, and when in the community, the virtue of each individual is living. Christine, she's joining us, by the way, from Ventura, California, right? So I now turn this over to you, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for the offer, and I'm so happy that we were able to make it happen. We've been trying to make this happen for over a year now, I think. So it's quite an honor to be here. So, yes, logo dynamics, the dynamics of the word. Andrew didn't quite mention that I have also done a speech training, which I imagine most of you know that I have. Um, and I graduated from that speech training 21 years ago. 21 years ago. So for the past 25 years, I have been really exploring and researching and doing my best to find my way through what it is to work with the speech arts and work with the word. Before that, my degree, my bachelor's degree was in linguistics, so I was always interested in the word. My first second language, I guess you could say, my first foreign language was Spanish, and my second foreign language was Swedish. And for the last 5 years, almost 6 now, Wow, almost 6 years. I've been studying German about 5 minutes a day on a funny little app. And I've taken a couple of dives into working with Steiner's language and translating that into English, which is quite a task for someone who's learning German on an app, let me tell you. So, why LogoDynamics? Why not creative speech? Or why not Sprachgestaltung? These are beautiful words and incredible ways of describing what we do with speech when we learn how to speak beautifully, speak the speech arts, work with the speech arts beautifully. But this translation into English from Sprachgestaltung into creative speech felt not weighty enough, not big enough, not comprehensive enough. And actually, I'd like to take credit for coining LogoDynamics, but I struggled with it for probably close to 18 years. And in, yeah, I'd say about 6 or 7 years ago, maybe, yeah, about 7 years ago, I was having a conversation with Timothy Kennedy, and he is. I was saying I struggle with this word creative speech. It doesn't feel very creative and it doesn't feel very all-encompassing with regard to all of the things that I'm reading and researching about the word. And so he said, well, there's kind of an obvious one. And I'm like, well, it's not obvious to me. So he actually brought this to me and brought this word into my heart. And therefore, I don't feel like I own it in any way and really feel that anyone who is working with the dynamics of the word could take it up. So there is so much to do with the word, and it is so interesting to try to just bring 21 years or more, 26 years, 25 years of working with it into a talk. So I thought that I would start with how I see an entry into this work could begin for anyone. And for me, that has to start with listening. It doesn't start with speaking because truly, before you can speak beautifully, and it's an interesting thing to even say you speaking beautifully, before your ability to bring through the complex and dynamic world of the word, you have to hear it. I would venture to guess that very few of us remember that those first 3 years of hearing speech and working to want to the will of speech, wanting it to actually even come through our lips. And we those first 3 years are magical. And we do these things that are completely in imitation of those around us. And if those around us don't have a speech training or don't have beautiful speech, we learn their speech. Anyone ever been told, oh, you sound just like your mother, or you sound just like your father, or you sound just like your sister? Um, we don't even really remember how much it took to actually form a sound. And this listening in maybe our consciousness now, this listening somewhat like trying to find a place of truly hearing, for me, kind of begs the question of what or how are we affected by what we hear? In science, you probably have all heard that every time I say something, you are, in essence, learning how I say it. You're copying it at the same time in your larynx and a little bit in your mouth, right? There's this mirroring going on all the time when you're, I hope it happens over digital means or media, but definitely when you're in a room with someone, you take in and, in one sense, on inwardly mirror what they bring to you. But is that all? Is that all that happens? So my question might be, this is an open question now. I'm happy to have you actually speak to this, but maybe what do you hear from someone else that frees you or allows you to make or allows you or makes you want to speak from your heart? What do you hear from someone else that allows you or frees you to be open to actually speak from your heart? This this thought, this question is sort of the beginning of a something. It's the beginning of something. It's the opening of something. And for me, that's almost the first step into logodynamics. What what is it? I could bring you actually. Let me see if I can find it. I have everything here and nothing here at the same time. I have this, I think it's in here. I'm pretty sure. Where are you? I have this wonderful verse, or poem. It's not a verse. There's a very distinct difference between the two. Why are you not coming out? Well, maybe I can. Aha, I know where it is. I put it on the floor. Yes. This verse by Walt Whitman, or this, I said it again, verse, but I meant poem. This poem by Walt Whitman that starts out, it's called, what is it called? It's called Voices. And it starts out by saying, I always forget the first two lines. That's why I'm bringing this, trying to find it here. Give me just a moment. Hmm. Well, Walt is not showing up here. Let's see. First, should be right here. Okay. It's not coming, so I'm going to go ahead and say, I'm going to try to give it to you from where I know it comes. Two more tries, and then we'll jump into it. Okay. Oh, what? I'm forgetting the first two lines. That's why I'm feeling like I'm missing it here. Okay. Oh, what is it in me that makes me tremble so at voices? Whoever speaks to me in the right voice, him or her, I shall follow, as the ocean follows the moon, silently with fluid steps anywhere around the world. He goes on to talk about tympans and that so many people speak with these tympans and temples unstruck, that haven't been hit, that haven't been that aren't resounding. And then he speaks about um, until that time when this orchestra plays. Basically, it's really a beautiful kind of movement into what is it in the word that actually makes us want to speak through the heart or from the heart. Rudolf Steiner talks so much about the word. You would think that that was one of his missions. He brings it from the very beginning. And I was in Ojai a few months ago, maybe a half a year ago, and there is a big theosophical center there. And I've never, I mean, I've visited there before, but I hadn't really, I thought, oh, this is interesting kind of thing. I know that Annie Besant, or I can't say it in French, so I'm just going to say Besant, actually lived there in Ojai, which is about 15 minutes from me here. So did Krishnamurti. He was here for most of his life. And after he renounced being the second coming of Christ. And this place in Ojai has this little bookshop. And um, Blavatsky, Helena Blavatsky, had written a whole tome on the Logos. And I thought to myself there, like, maybe that was one of the reasons Rudolf Steiner spoke in the beginning about the Logos so much. But Steiner talks about how the whole body, the whole human being, not physical body, but the whole bodies, all bodies, awaken to this speaking participation, that the speech actually, or the word, lives in the astral body and the etheric body. So our it becomes a habit in the etheric body, right? It brings it in there. It comes in there through that repetition. And then in the astral body, you can feel how when someone else is speaking from the heart, or when you are speaking from the heart, that the word also lives there. And you can hear that in how a person's vowels intone, or creak, or crack, or sing, or sound. There's a whole series, or there's a whole lecture called The Driving Force of Spiritual Powers in World History, where he talks about where speech lives. And I'm not sure if you all were able to hear Jeffrey Norris on Mistech a while back, but he brought a few things that I thought I need to bring those back in, weave those back in, because for me, this idea that eurythmy is visible speech is quite well known throughout anthroposophy. But many people don't quite realize that speech, beautiful speech, is audible eurythmy. It's this we're two sides of a globe. I can't even say a coin. We're two sides of a whole, or two facets of a whole. And so if we're working and working to enliven or working to even just notice the dynamics of the word in what we do, we have to find phenomenologically what's really going on. And so when I work with students, I work with them with sounds. I bring them into a relationship with the individual sounds. I help them remember how they started in the beginning with forming sounds. So, for example, I ask my students to, in the room where you are, to fill the room with a sound. And that doesn't mean to sing it. It means to take that speech sound and see if you can put it in different parts of the room and fill the room with that sound. And in that speaking of it, you're always listening so that you can start to identify what qualities does this sound exhibit. So we can get very phenomenological about this, right? So can I ask you to do a funny thing and fill your space with the sound of G, which is the letter we use to symbolically write it. We use the letter G. So G, 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 G. Please do it. You can hear me, but I can't hear you. So you can fill your room with that. And just as you do it, listen for those qualities of G. Keep doing it. Keep going. G, 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 G. Now I'm going to ask you to unmute and to tell me, like, what are the qualities of this sound? What are the qualities?
Very hard.
It's hard. Yeah.
And it's very difficult to spread it. It hasn't gone beyond my screen.
Good.
I had the feeling of breaking through the barrier in my throat, trying to get it out.
So it breaks through. It's hard, and it breaks through. So it's strong, maybe. Yeah.
I have the sense, and it's in the word gravity, that it tries to pull things to it.
It's a gathering up of spirit.
Gathering, right.
Yeah, good, good.
Sounded explosive to me.
Very explosive, yeah. It's gurgly, very gurgly. It comes from in the middle of throat, right? Or somewhere from like gurgle.
Yeah, good, good.
Yeah, it felt a little harsh to me. It was, yeah. It's like a little bit of, maybe a little aggressive. Maybe the sound felt like I'm trying to impose myself on, the space. It's, yeah.
Good. Anyone else?
It felt like opening a gate, like pushing out something that was hard, but you're doing it. A gate is opening.
Good. Yeah. Beautiful. So I want you to hold on to that feeling and or that sense and we'll come back to it. But let's move on to another sound. You can mute yourself if you like, or you can put it into the room. I'm okay with it as well. But let's go with that sound that is symbolized by the letter R. So if you can roll your R's, do it that way. And if you have a back German type R, you can do it in the back of your mouth, or you can do it wherever you feel comfortable. Always thinking or exploring the qualities of It's always fun to watch the faces. It's a very fun one. Oh, I just gave something away. You can unmute now if you like and share your experiences there.
For it to work for me, it worked best when I could start it way back. And it came forward and finished on the tongue. You know, if it just sat in the tongue, it wasn't as satisfying. But if I could really make it like be dynamic like that, move. Yeah.
Movement, yes. There's a lot of movement in that. Yes. What else?
Yes, it can be pronounced in the frontal palate, r, or like you said, the German type of r, but also it is it's the movement of the tongue. If I move it tighter to the hard palate, it comes into zh. And I think it's Japanese doesn't have, not all languages have both R and L. Somehow those two are not always. Japanese doesn't have L and it has R, but the R, it's just a little bit rolling. And I think the connection with the zh is also interesting. It must have coming from sort of the movement of the tongue into in the middle of the palate. So it travels. The tongue travels.
Good.
I feel.
Good. Yeah. Anyone else?
I think it's such a fun sound. Maybe because I'm a Taurus. So.
Yes.
It's great to do.
Good.
I can't make that sound that you all are making, so I just do an R. But when Barbara said from the throat, I got much more into it. R came forward with the movement. So that made it come alive for me. I didn't find it fun, particularly. I know two people did, but but I found it more fun when it came from the throat out. And I can't make that. What do you call that sound that you?
It's an R. It's a twirling R, I guess.
Twirling. Well, okay.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
To me, it sounds like a series of D's, really fast D's. D D D D D D D D D. D D D. It doesn't sound like an R. And I have also noticed in the Spanish R that rolls that if I substituted D, like in Maria instead of Maria, it's Medea, like is what they're actually saying. They're making a D sound, not an R sound. In American dialect, not an R sound.
Good. Good. Yeah. So if we had to contrast these two, one is definitely much more of a one-hit wonder kind of thing. It's hard to do really make it go. We don't have that very often in any of our speaking, right? We don't have g g g g g g. Trying to think begging or beginning. I guess we do kind of get it in there.
Google.
Google, there you go. There you go, Google. But if we start to think of even more qualities of these, like maybe we could think of them in terms of the elements. So what would you say G might be connected with?
Probably earth, very solid for me.
Good, good.
Certainly not water, not air, and not fire.
And not fire. Definitely
So-
not fire.
So that the only left is earth or metal. But even it's not sort of clinging. It's so earthly. It's so
Good. Yeah.
In the acupuncture five elemental system, there's a fifth element of wood. So in that system, it feels like wood to me.
Could be. Yeah, I could see that. I could feel that. And then what about the rrr? What about that rrr, rrr, rrr?
Water?
What was that?
Would water ripple like that?
Maybe, but it's not actually a water sound.
Okay.
Only if it had the air blowing through it.
Right, exactly. Water ripples when there is air, and it is the only air sound that we have, believe it or not. Although I would almost beg to say that our v, the English v, is also an air sound, even though that is not how it was brought to us in the speech training. Okay, let's try one more sound, and that I'm gonna we'll just give you the symbol for it, which is the letter S, as in Sam. Go ahead and fill your space with that and see how long you can do that. How much you can fill your space with that. You're not going to hear it, I don't think, if I say it. So, you can unmute when you're ready to stop.
I was able to fill all of Cape Cod.
So, what are the qualities of this sound?
Air, fire.
What can it do? You already said it. You were able to fill all of Cape Cod. It's dispersing, it's penetrating, it's
Water?
yeah, we really only have one water sound, and it's not that one.
This is not an air sound?
It's not an air sound either.
Is it fire, like Susan said?
Fire,
It
I
is
think.
fire. Yeah, absolutely. It's fire and its sister or brother, depending on how you go about that. But its sister sound is the voiced Z or Z or Z, depending on where you come from. Z, Z. Try to do that one for a minute. Z.
Yeah, it's really the same, isn't it? Yeah.
It's similar.
Mhm.
I think one has more rounded kind of sounds, and one has more of a straight kind of sound, almost like the symbol. Zzz kind of goes in like almost lightning type movements, whereas the s, if you really go into it, if it hits something, it just goes around it. So it doesn't necessarily penetrate. It sort of, I mean, it does, but it really likes to go around things if it can. I always think of like a teapot and the steam coming out of the teapot, and how if you put a book there, it'll just go around the book or the lid or something. If you put something on it, it'll find its way out. But the zzz it's got a little bit more sharpness to it, the voiced friend of s. So
the tongue is much flatter in a z rather than a
is, yeah.
it, zzz. It's
Yes.
open.
Hmm. Good, good. So now we have g, r, s. We have j, or the j, the g, the r, and the s sound. And if you think, okay, let's see if we can bring a vowel in there between the r, and the s. There are so many words that come from that, right? So let's think of a word with, let's just start with ah. So in British English, you would hear grass, 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 or grass. Yeah, grass. Yeah. And that would be in American English, that might be grass, grass. And all of them, if you think about it, if you think about what grass does and what grass is and how it like shows up just about everywhere, it's pretty strong, right? It doesn't stop. Have you ever tried to take grass out of a big, your front lawn or your back lawn? Have you ever tried to take that out and really like blade by blade take it out? It doesn't really happen. It just keeps going. It just keeps going like the rrr. It just keeps going and going. It's strong too. Those roots go down and really make this underbelly of of like I'm here to stay. I've got a firm, but at the same time, I mean, you can cut right into it with a shovel. The s is also that it'll go around everything and get into everything and out. If you've got vegetables or anything and you think you have a barrier between where the grass ends and the garden begins, that grass is going to come in no matter what. You have to take that out. You also think about maybe A or E. So grease, grease. You think about that, it's also, a very thick, kind of strong substance. It's hard to get rid of, right? You've got it's very slippery, so it keeps moving. It's also can penetrate just about anything. If you get any oil on your shirt or on your napkin or something, this grease, it will really, really dig in. But what about this word grace? How do we find strength? Is there any strength in grace? How do we accept grace? Is it easy to accept? Is it a powerful time in your life when, if you think about these times in your life when you've been afforded some grace? It's usually in hard times when we can actually go, oh, wow, there I was graced with something. So what I do with LogoDynamics is I really try to take people through this experience of sounds and to really play with them and see if you can find, do some wordplay. Take something like the sound g and see if you can write up a little speech exercise. Do you want to try that? Let's take a couple of minutes and just see if you can do a little, maybe a rhyme. You don't have to call it a speech exercise. You can call it a rhyme. I'm trying to think of what I use for g when I do g. When I was doing my speech training, I had a page, a whole page a whole A4 page full of different sounds. Each sound had its own. G. What did I do for G? It's much easier to do the other ones. Great, great green gifts glowingly grow in Grandma's garden.
That's wonderful.
Grandpa guarded the gold while Grandma giggled with glee. Grim gangs of growling girls. Bye, Maria. Thank you. So G has a sister as well, and that sister is the sound K, the sound that K makes, or sometimes C, the way we spell things. And really working with these sounds can help us to enliven our speech so that when we speak with other people, we have something for our soul sounds, which are the vowels, the connection to our astral body, so that they have some place to land and be formed beautifully. The consonantal sounds are actually forming sounds. They help to form us. They form us as we're coming in through conception. And Rudolf Steiner says, and I try not to say Rudolf Steiner says very often, but he says that I usually only say it when I haven't gotten there yet. I'm like, he says this and I want to really find my way into it. But he says that the sounds are what we hear from, or the gifts that we are given from the consonantal sounds come from the zodiac, from the fixed stars, and they helped to form us. And that as we come in, he says, as we come in, where the way we come in or the place we come in, the sounds that come, the consonantal sounds that come from the zodiac, actually speak our cosmic name. And he says that the moving planets or the moving stars, which are the planets, I guess that's what the word planet means, is moving star. So they're the ones who bring us the singing, the singing sounds, right? The vowels. And so as we come in, we hear our cosmic name. This is such a beautiful way to try to research. If you have access to someone who does charts, does your birth chart, to look at, okay, so how did I come in, and do the sounds that are connected to these zodiac where I came in, right? And where the planets were, where they were fixed, like these sounds were coming in. Where do they come in my name? And how is that connected? And is that something that I feel connected to? Do I feel connected to my name? I know that when I was a young child, and this was also in research for the sounds of language, I know that as a young child, I was called Chris and Chrissy. Those were my nicknames. And something happened in high school when I changed from middle school to high school. I told my teacher, I said, my name's Christine. That was it. Nobody's calling me anything else. My name is Christine. And I set my sights on that. But after that, I played a little bit with how it was spelled. Like I changed the S to a Z, and I did all kinds of fun things. Yeah, I was a bit of a word nerd back then. Even then, before I met anthroposophy, I really loved these sounds of words. And it's something to look at, to see if like these sounds that are connected to the forming of our name, or maybe even just look at our biography and look at how do I feel about my name? How did I feel about my name when I was young? How do I feel about it now? Where did it come from? Why did my parents name me this? Do I have a connection to that? It's a So the work that I do is not only about the sounds that we make, it's also about how we experience sound in our life. And that then leads us to looking at, okay, so sounds are, of course, connected to our throat, but also truly to the whole of our body. Ancient, ancient mystics and mystery temples all have. So this one I think is like Renaissance Italy. You can see on this that there are connections to the zodiac, to our body, to the forming of our body. And this is an ancient, I think it's, gosh, maybe I should put my glasses back on. Yeah, I don't know what that means. I think Holz is wood. Schnitt is, I don't know what that means. This looks more either of sorry, I should show it to you. This looks more either of a an origin that is either South American or Egyptian, maybe. This kind of drawing or representation of all of the zodiac in the forming of our body. And these, as if you've done any kind of eurythmy, or if you've done a bit of more developed eurythmy, looking at the zodiac, you can also see how it's connected to the different parts of our body. This G is the strength of our arms, right? It's G, and K is the archer, right? It's the Sagittarius sound. But looking at the chakra of the throat, Steiner, we hear quite a bit about, and we work quite a bit with the chakra of the heart and the 6 basic exercises and the 6 essential exercises. Rudolf Steiner talks about how the eightfold path is connected to the chakra of the throat. And those elements that he brings start with the first one being this striving after or working with the truth value in your concepts or ideas. And this is so connected to the idea of logodynamics, because this truth value in your concepts or ideas is something, sometimes we talk about things that we don't know anything about. For example, we might say, oh, my husband had to go fix the carburetor, or my wife had to go fix the carburetor, and we don't really even know what a carburetor is. I don't know what a carburetor is anyway. I could probably tell you that there's some little things that go up and down on it, but I don't that a car needs it, and that's about my extent of the knowledge of that. But I'm still able to speak the word, and so when I speak it, what am I speaking? What's the truth value in it? How much truth value is in my ability to speak what a carburetor is? Can we look at what kinds of words we're talking about? What kinds of words we use? Because they're empty shells if we don't really know the life that is in them. So that's the first of the eightfold path, this truth value in your concepts and ideas. How accurate are your concepts and ideas in relation to the reality of the word that you're using? And then we go into how to learning to take care and also care and deliberation of how I approach anything that I will to do. And in our speech, if we look at something like I want to do something, or I wish for something, or I wish I did this, if we work on those will resolves, and look at how I decide what I choose to actually do, this is actually related to speech. In maybe it hasn't been spoken yet, but even if it's just a thought, this is part of how we enliven this throat realm, is to be in right relationship with our thoughts about what we want to do and with what we do, and being in right relationship in the Eightfold Path, if you look at it that way, with Buddha, right relationship with how I approach any kind of resolve. And then, of course, precision and humanity of our speech. And that's this weaving together of our thoughts about something and the emotional element of it. And how do I speak to you? And how do you take that? And how do you speak to me? And is it okay for you to say that to me, right? Or is it okay for me to say this to you? And how do I know when to speak what it is that is human in a conversation, in a relationship? That fourth element is this capacity to balance all of life, right? It's when you become a meditant, so this Eightfold Path, when you're becoming a meditant, you don't just drop all the friends that aren't quite in alignment with what you're doing in your life, right? You work for, haha, lovely, lovely. You work for this, like, okay, I'm here doing what I need to do, and these people are still in my life, and I can change. It's okay. But I don't just drop them because I'm working to be a better person and to speak in better ways, or to be more conscious and present in my speaking. How do I balance that life? And in that one, it's one of those things where, it's the balance between seriousness and joyfulness. We need to have joy in our life. And how beautiful that the sounds of language, these elemental beings, Marie Steiner calls them, or says of them, that they have to teach us. They have to teach us how to speak again. And how can they teach us if we don't actually really work on finding what are their qualities, and how do I find and consciously work with them? So that's that balance between enjoyment and drying up, that seriousness about it. So the capacity to balance life. And then there's the ability to manage the whole of life as a function, as a thought leader, as someone who can actually think about everything that they've got going on and be able to do all of those things. I think this next one is something that I need to work on a little bit, which is the right endeavor. I have so many things going on. I need to learn to say an invitation is not a directive. That's what Mary Stuart Adams shared with me. It's not it's actually, you can say no to an invitation. It's all right to do that. But at the same time, you always want to try to be at your growing or learning edge. You always want to be learning. Lifelong learning is what my mom called it when she was getting her, I think it was her master's, maybe it was her PhD, I don't know, in what was it called? Leisure studies. What a lovely thing to study. I kind of want to go back and follow in her footsteps. Leisure studies. What is that? Finding a ways to actually have enjoyment in your life. And then, of course, it's connected. So I said, learn as much as you can from life. No, that was right endeavor. Wait, I kind of mixed them up a little bit. So always being at your learning edge in right endeavor it sets this right dynamic tension in your life. But then you're also always wanting to learn as much as possible from life by enlivening your curiosity and questioning yourself and the world and work on understanding where are you coming from. Rudolf Steiner once said again that human beings are not separate species. We are actually, because of the color of our skin, he said, we are all, each and every single individual is a separate species. So we're not separated by the color of our skin. We're separated by the bodies that we have. We are each, and each of us has come in with a totally different understanding of the world and totally different experiences from past lives. I'm still working on that one. I'm still working on that one. Like, wow, walk into a room and there's a whole bunch of different people who don't actually have that. So it makes sense that we all kind of want to go to groups and go, okay, we have this understanding. We can work from here. But yes, and even that understanding is so differently colored and differently enlivened. And then number eight of that, working on that throat chakra, is the self-auditing. Who am I really? Taking time once a month, once a week to actually sit down, give yourself a half an hour and work on who am I? Who am I really? Yeah. So find ways to look at yourself as a stranger. Take yourself out of yourself and look and like, what and who am I? So I had not known that the throat chakra was connected to the Eightfold Path when I started working on the Eightfold Path. But what I recently discovered in some research that kind of took me from another set of exercises that I was doing into a rabbit hole of, well, what are the Beatitudes? Because Rudolf Steiner talks about the Beatitudes. And although there are 10 Beatitudes, his explanation of them is a little bit confusing. But they're also, he mentioned in some random place that the Beatitudes actually work on the throat chakra as well. And so guess who's really researching that right now? That's me. So yeah, these LogoDynamics has to do with actually not just speaking prettily. It has to do with everything that anthroposophy has to do with. It has to do with who am I and how do I train, or maybe it's better not train. How do I tune my whole body, which is, an instrument of speech? In another lecture that he gives, I think it's called The Universal Human. I'd have to look at, let me see if I can see it here. I had it open just a few minutes ago. Yeah, I put it on here. I did, because I knew I was going to say something about it. It was called The Cosmic Word and Individual Man. And he says in there that, what does he say? Oh gosh, I lost my train of thought there for a minute. Where did it go? All right, it's not coming back, so maybe it wasn't found there. Okay. Um, so yes, the Beatitudes, the Eightfold Path, something that I'm working with right now as well is this idea that the chakra of the heart is all about harmony and working in harmony, whereas the chakra of the throat and working on your voice and working on the instrument of your body is about wisdom. It's truly a path to wisdom. And where is this one? Huh. I wrote that down. See, I write these quotes down and I think, oh, I'll remember. And then it's gone. So in one of the beautiful, oh, maybe that was the one. Yes. Yes. Okay. So this is it. In The Cosmic Word and Individual Man, Rudolf Steiner talks about how, in fact, I'm just going to read you this quote. He says, in present day anthroposophical life, we must begin to develop an art. We must begin to develop an art, which was one of the arts of the old mysteries, those mysteries which were based on quite different kind of knowledge from that of today, and yet possessed in their customs and in their whole way of conducting affairs a great deal that has been lost and must be renewed. The art, I mean, can be described quite in accordance with the intentions of the old mysteries. Thus, from words there must be drawn spirit. But when, in the old mysteries, they spoke of word or logos, they meant something very much more significant than is generally meant today. We have to learn to find again a deeper and deeper meaning in the objects and processes of the world. And in this sentence, once more, spirit must be drawn forth from words. So I don't know how much more time we have here, but I did want to bring us back to two things. I wanted to talk a little bit about rhythm, very little. I can't stress enough how important rhythms are in healing and in life. And those rhythms in your speech, speaking poetry aloud, speaking verses aloud, brings a different element into the room. It brings these beings into the room that you can actually work with and can enliven whatever it is you're working on. So taking a meditation from out of your head into the space with your speech is I just recommend it. I highly recommend it. I don't know if you've ever heard me speak the Foundation Stone meditation, but I somehow thought I could learn it in 5 weeks. When I learned about it in 2006, I had heard about it before and I thought, oh, I could speak, I could learn a meditation in, I have 5 weeks to learn this. And then I started working with it and was like, whoa, how do you do that? But really, if you have that, if you've worked with that meditation and you have it in your heart or in your head, bring it out through your words and find the rhythms in it. It will, I'm not going to say it's going to change your life. It changed my life completely when I started speaking it. So rhythms are incredibly important. And this last element that I wanted to sort of bring us back to is this element of the vowels and the soul life and the astral element of the word. the more we can work on enlivening our speech, the more we will get to that transformation of the astral body. I'm finding anyway, so that we have this pathway into spirit self. So we're, for the most part, most of the people on the planet now are working in this ego place, working even just to get to that ego place. And so many anthroposophists are working to get to the transformation of the astral. And I'm finding that the pathway is speech and this eightfold path. And I'm hoping we'll see what about the Beatitudes, which I'm working on now. Okay, that was a lot of me speaking. I'm a teacher and I don't speak that much usually in an hour. So thank you for taking me along in this.
Interestingly, I'm sure you know this, when Steiner did the Lord's Prayer, he spoke it in the room all the time, very loudly, so loudly that you could hear it throughout the whole building.
Very
You know,
interesting.
the second floor of the Goetheanum, where most of the offices are now, if he was speaking in there, I totally understand because they resound. They are the most beautiful places to speak a verse, let me tell you. I was in there doing that and was so happily and joyously doing that.
So I have a question for you, and
Yeah.
if anybody wants to ask a question, you know where the raise hand button is, or just hop in if it's quiet. But you asked us early on about speaking from the heart, and I had this immediate, this is the dawning of the age of Mikael. Hearts begin to have thoughts. And I thought, my goodness, there must be a relationship here. And maybe you can elaborate on that relationship.
So maybe I'll just elaborate on it a little bit.
Yeah.
The throat chakra lives between the thought chakra and the heart chakra. And to be able to truly speak beautifully from the heart, those two have to be connected. And you also have to have the will to do it, right? So the will of speech is also kind of in that as well. So that my understanding anyway, is that so that you can, in freedom, choose not to use words to hurt, right? You can find the freedom in that. No, it's not right. That's not right. You can find the love in that. So from the thought to the heart is finding that true love, being able to share what's in from this sharing between. And then also it's the acts. The acts are free, right? If they come from the will in through the heart, it's also that freedom. Those two things that we're here to do, right? Is to develop love or to actualize love and to actualize freedom as beings.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead, Susan.
You know, Christina, I was thinking from the very beginning when you began speaking, I felt that your heart and your head and your will, your thinking, your feeling, your willing were very integrated as one. And I felt that very powerful. You asked us in the beginning that we should listen, and I felt that so powerfully. I didn't want to interrupt then, but I'm glad to have an opportunity to say it now. It's an example of how speech becomes living speech, dynamic living speech. And thank you for your putting it forward in this way.
Yeah, I'd like to add something, and I'm just Susan. I mean, I was going to say something, but Susan made me say it in a different way. And I wonder, what I was going to say when you asked that first question, you're basically how you opened your lecture, um, how we can have um, thoughts with the heart. I think that's what you said. But in any case, I thought that it was the ability to listen to another engendered if we truly allowed that other person to express and we really listened and we listened, let them be totally free in what they were saying, uh, 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 yeah. Then that would engender these heart maybe thoughts or speech. But then as Susan was speaking, I was wondering if it's reciprocal, because you started out, Christine, that you depend as a speaker on the people who are here in Zoom, basically in the room with you, but on Zoom, in the Zoom room. We'll call it a Zoom room.
Mhm.
And so I'm wondering if you feel something from us listening to you, if there is something else, if it might be, just not that I'm listening to you, but can you feel my listening and that affects how you speak? It's a hard one to try to express.
I told Andrew when I first came on, maybe I said it to everyone, I'm not sure, that I wrote quite a bit down and I didn't want to read what I wrote. I wanted to have a conversation with you. And I do try to do that on a regular basis. It's much easier in person, but I do have an active practice with the Western Regional Council, where I'm on the Western Regional Council with a person from just about that covers, basically a ring around the Western region or within the Western region. And we actively we do a similar meditation to the College of Teachers meditation. But because we're not in the same room, we really, really try to imagine each other, where we are, where each of us are, and hold that ring around the Western region in our conversation. And so I've been practicing doing that. And because I know all of these people, I've met them in person, I can sense where they are. And having a picture of them is lovely, but it's sometimes it's sometimes a little bit of a crutch. And it's nice to not have the picture. It's nice to have, we did this before Zooms were ever, big or whatever, in some other groups that was in on the telephone. And in some ways, it's easier on the telephone than it is on Zoom, because you get a little bit lazy when people are just sitting there, and you're like, oh, what's in their house and what's going on? what what's going on? But I do try, so I don't want to say I'm an expert at it, but it is something that you can do, so long as you have the will to have that heart connection. And that can't always happen. It can't really happen at the same time. Like, I don't really know Victor, or and I don't think I know Janet. Maybe I do. The name sounds very familiar. But and Jennifer, I'm not sure if I've ever met her, but because I can see your faces, and I can, there are all kinds of nonverbal expressions that are going on when you're reading or when you're speaking to someone. So I can get a little bit of those nonverbals that help me to try to understand or interact with you while I'm online. But it's like I said, it's much more difficult online than it is in person.
Christine, a wonderful violinist named Miha Pagajnik,
Mhm.
and I went on some of his Idri art festivals because he used to live in Wilton, New Hampshire, where I lived at the time. And he often said that the listening of the audience affected how he played. And he felt much freer, much better when he knew the audience was really listening.
Mm. Mm.
And I
Yeah.
think that's true of speech. John, you had your hand up before.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, I somehow seem to remember that you suggested that we write a verse.
I did.
So
I was
I've
hoping
been
that we would
busy
get to
this,
that.
and I would like to share with you what I wrote.
I would love that.
So it goes like this. Fairy dust grace gently snowing down on me, coming to ground on me, gently given to me. It's not a grant, not even a great expectation. It is glittering golden goodness, grand and great. Grace is gentle love, nothing less, nothing more.
Beautiful.
Nice job, John.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I felt the same. That characterizes. You asked how we could characterize grace, and that does it perfectly. Thank you, John.
Beautiful.
Well, we are past time,
my.
but that's okay. It's all right. People can leave if they have to. Yeah, so you have a couple thank yous in the chat, but
Oh.
before we leave, I just wanted to mention Christine talked about the mirroring. So when you're listening, you actually are mirroring what you're hearing. Your larynx in your mouth very gently are actually trying to form the same sound that you're just hearing. And I find it interesting that if you look at an embryo, the ears aren't up here, the ears are down here. They begin here, right with the larynx, as if they were one unit, and then they migrate up.
If you look at the torus symbol as well, the torus is, round and it has horns.
Right.
That is like the connection to speaking and hearing. I do have a verse if you'd like me to close out with a verse.
Yes.
Was there anyone else who wanted to say something or share their great glowing golden whatever?
Well, I have one more thing, and I've been taking up a lot of time. Forgive me. It's just that when I read aloud, say if I'm reading a lecture, I find that I am helped by the spiritual world in a different way than if I'm reading it silently. It's clear that, I'm getting a lot of help. And it could be, if I do ask others to join me, spiritual people in the spiritual world, maybe that is, part of,
I also found myself wishing we were able to hear Rudolf Steiner reading his work in his own voice.
Oh, yes, Susan.
Or even reciting the Lord's Prayer in the same room. Either one of those would be really welcome.
Yeah.
Were there ever recordings of his voice? No.
No. No.
Recordings were to come later. There was no real means at that in his time to record voice. So, I mean, there were gramophones, there was something, but it was not something they could set up in the lecture hall and record them. Anyway, Christine.
Nice. Victor says, thank you, Christine. Imagine an Austrian accent. That would be great. Andrew, did you want to read yours?
No, that's all right. We'll do yours as the closing.
We'll just close. Okay. So this is a verse. by Rudolf Steiner. Fill me with consciousness, for I am to be a temple of the world-creating word. Let my eyes learn to see into the darkness. Let my mouth learn to speak into silence. Let my heart learn to hear into pure spirit. I see sun spirit and moon soul. I speak God's word to the listening earth. I feel spirit flowing in human blood. This is one that I would also reverse. So I would do that that way, and then I would go backwards on it. So, but I'm not going to do it here. I would in my own meditation. Thank you so much.
Christine. I don't have to go into all the difficulties we had to set this up, but for the folks here, even at the last minute, this became, oh my God, she was doing another Zoom right before this with Mary Stuart Adams and the Anthroposophical Society of America. So God bless you for all your work and all that you're doing. So I think we can bring this to a close, and I will put the recording up on our YouTube channel probably tomorrow. So
if you could send me that link, that would be great.
I will.
Okay.
All right, everyone. Good night. Sleep well tonight.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.